Good morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the pre-market webinar series. Before we get started, let's take a look at the shared disclaimer. Be aware that neither Market Chameleon, Dimitri, or myself are a registered investment advisor or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This show, as all our shows, is for informational purposes only concerning Market Chameleon tool and products. With that, D, good pre-Thanksgiving morning.
Yeah, good morning, Will. And good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. And today we're going to cover um, block trades, stock block trades, trading in a pre-market hours. And we're going to take a look at how we could detect them, um, how we could filter out block trades that are trading in a dark pool, and discuss a little bit about what that means when we see block trades in a dark pool. And this is to answer a couple questions I get over the email and also expand upon our screening for trading activity in a pre-market we discussed yesterday. We were on this pre-market report. So under stocks, go to the pre-market trading. You will come to this page, and then we have these tabs up top. So there, we have a summary page. Then yesterday we discussed this screener, allows us to use filters to screen out certain um, activity in a pre-market. And this is looking at volume in aggregate. So here we see NVIDIA traded 4 million shares, over 4 million shares in a pre-market hours. And it allows us to use some of these filters to look for anything that is unusual volume for pre-market activity, and different price actions like breakouts out of ranges. Today, what we're going to do is look deeper into the volume. So out of this 4 million shares, how can we take those trades that are occurring? Because when 4,100,000 shares traded, well, there could be something in that volume that might be interesting we want to analyze, and we want to separate, categorize, and bucket off that volume. All right. And one of the ways we could bucket or categorize the volume is looking for block trades within that volume. Okay. So, 100 shares or 1,000 shares might not be a large block, but maybe a block of 10,000 shares that traded in one transaction, or $500,000 worth of shares that traded in one transaction. That could be a significant trade. And if we looked for those trades and just isolated them from the rest of the volume and analyzed just those trades, we might get, new insights or a different picture by just analyzing those alone and looking at a more granular level. So let's go a little bit deeper than this aggregate volume summary, and we're going to go over here to block trades. So these block trades right now are set to pre-market because we're right now in pre-market. Regular trading hours didn't, or actually this is the pre-market report. So these will always be pre-market. And it looks at the trading activity in the pre-market and starts to look for bigger size trades. And when we define a block trade, different people could define it differently, right? Maybe it's $250,000 worth of stock. Maybe it's a 500,000. Maybe it's 1 million. You know, and sometimes a block trade could be a lower price stock, but if you're thinking maybe it's at least 10,000 shares or 20,000 shares or 50,000 shares. And so there's no one rule to really just say this has to be a block trade. There are some, standards, that were created by the exchanges, like 10,000 shares or more, $250,000 worth of stock or more. But we could use some of these tools over here to filter out and look for a certain dollar amount. Okay, so we could look for, single transactions, and let's say we're looking for anything above $250,000 worth of stock. Okay, so the trade itself, the single trade, had to involve at least $250,000 in notional value in the stock, which could be a different amount of stock depending on the price of the stock. Right? So $100, you could have $100 stock, you could have $5 stock, you could have a $1,000 stock. Well, that would represent a different amount of shares to get up to 250,000. But let's set that right now to 250,000, because in our block trade screener, we're going to have a lot of items here. Like right now, we have over 4,800 items. And this is without, this is meeting our minimum filters, which is, I believe, either 10,000 shares or more, or a notional value, I believe, right now, maybe about 10,000. Okay, so we could narrow this down more. And I'm going to set this to 250,000. Once I click on it, now all these trades have to be notional value of at least 250,000. So let's just go from left to right and see what this means. So here we have the symbol, the name of the company. So this is Alphabet, Google's, the market cap. This is the current price and where the current price is relative from the trade that we're analyzing. All right, so I'm going to come back to that to explain what that is. Here's the block trade. The time was 8:53:06. This traded, you can see here, the size was $2,343 for a price of $171 and a penny, which is over $400,000 worth of stock in one transaction. Okay, so that one transaction involved $400,000 from the buy and sell side. This was where the NBBO market was, the national best bid and the national best offer at the time this trade was reported. So it was 171.01 bid, 171.13 offer. Okay. The closing price was 170.62. So you can see it's up in a pre-market. And how much is it up? It's up 0.2%. You can see the conditions here is this is a pre-market and this traded in the dark pool. Okay, so if it traded on the lit exchange, the lit exchange would be in here. Like here's ARCA. This traded on the BATS exchange. This traded over here on the NASDAQ. This is Edge A, Edge X, if it, so all here, if it's, here's New York Stock Exchange, Bilex. So you could see could trade on a lit exchange, which, includes the major stock exchanges, New York, NASDAQ, ARCA, BATS, Amex, all those, or if it trades off exchange and a, broker dealer's engine that runs the dark pool, if it trades in that dark pool, that broker dealer has to report the trade, right? So the way the dark pool works is you don't show the intent. the buy and sell like you do, when you look at the lit exchanges like New York Stock Exchange, you put in a certain bid with a price and amount. Well, that will get put on the exchange's books and it could get displayed. The dark pool doesn't display those bids and offers. They only report transactions. Okay, so once a transaction happens, if a trade gets matched up and and you have a price, you have an amount, then it gets reported to the tape. Okay, so that's what the dark pool is. So you can see here, these are trades that occurred and they get reported. Um, so a couple things here, what we're looking at here, these two percentages. This tells us just what the current price is doing relative to yesterday's close. So we could see that the price is trading higher today. That trade price traded higher than yesterday's close. So the stock's up based on that. And this is only following this trade. This percentage tells you where is the stock relative to just this one trade. Okay, did the stock move higher after the trade or did it move lower? So you have two different reference points. One, you're comparing the price and from the close from yesterday's, and then you're comparing today's trade to where the stock is. Okay, so this way you could see what's the stock doing after just this particular trade. So I'm gonna now isolate it to one company. We have a screener here. We could keep screening, but let's just see what happened. Maybe we wanted to look at Microsoft. So over here on this filter symbol, we're going to enter in Microsoft. And now we get a list of trades for Microsoft. So you could see here, there's 17 block trades in Microsoft today that met this condition of over $250,000 in trade. Okay, so this top one, you could see here at 849.47, a big trade occurred, 69,267 shares, and for a price of $427.99. So that is $29 million worth of stock. So very, very large trade. But this one has a condition average price. Okay, so that one is a little bit different. I'm not going to go into it, but that's keep in mind that's an average price. So that actually was a trade that wasn't exactly one block versus one block. Okay, it could be one block versus a bunch of matchups. So to just once we look at the dark pool, how does the dark pool work? And how is it different? Because what are we looking for? What are we trying to assess here? So to be able to analyze it, we kind of have to understand how this dark pool works and how it works differently than from the lit exchanges. And when you enter in a order in a dark pool, let's say it's a very aggressive order. It could be a VWAP. It could be, just VWAP buy and limit price. It could be like $5 above, right? $5 above the current price. Let's say I want to buy $20 million worth of stock. And it could be a limit price if the stock's, let's say, 426. I could enter in a stock price of 430, $4 above that. But unlike the lit exchange, if you put that on a lit exchange, that order will start eating up the book. It'll start buying everything up to $430 until you get your full shares, and you could drive up the price right? Because you whatever is available on the New York Stock Exchange, you'll take that. Then you go to the next exchange, NASDAQ, you'll take that. You'll go, if there's more in the NASDAQ at a higher price, you'll take that. So what happens is once you entered into that to the lit exchange, it could really just drive that price higher until you get all your stock. You'll get an immediate fill. Or let's say you entered in an order that's not marketable. Let's say it's below. Let's say you put it buying 20 million shares, $20 million worth of stock at $425 below. Well, if you submit that to the lit exchange, that will go on its order book. Okay, so it has a limit order book. And if you have access to the limit order book, you pay for that feed, you could see it. You'll know it's there, right? It'll be available for view because you could pay and get that information. So the dark pool works a little bit differently. It protects the intent of the order. So somebody could submit the order, but it's not going to drive the prices up, and there's no way for someone publicly to see what that order is. That's why it's in the dark. It's being hidden. It's controlled by that broker dealer who's handling that order. Okay, so even if you enter in dark pool $430 worth, it's only going to trade wherever that NBBO is and whatever comes into the dark pool. Okay, so you could have a market, you could have this big order there, big buy order trading, for $430, but the stock market itself could be going down because the lit exchange, right, that's what's driving the prices, right? The lit exchange, whatever is displayed to trade is driving the prices. So that order could sit there and it'll only get matched up with whatever's in that dark pool. So if there are no trades, there are no orders in that dark pool to offset it. It'll just sit there while the market's moving around. Okay, because it's not showing its hand. It's only interacting with the orders coming into that specific dark pool. And so like knowing that, we could try to figure out, well, maybe what's going on there, because if a big block matches up in a dark pool, right? Like these big block at certain points, that's where we kind of see, well, what do we think was happening here? How big are these trades? What prices are they interacting, and where does the stock go afterwards? Because you could have a big order there in a dark pool, that may have gotten filled in the market change, or you could have had a big dark pool order that it got filled, but the market continued to go higher. Maybe there is a very big buyer or seller, or multiple buyers or sellers. So that's kind of like where it's not a perfect answer. You're trying to analyze it to make inferences. Okay, so nobody's telling you, well, yeah, there's a huge buy order for $200 million worth of stock of Microsoft. Nobody's going to tell you that, because that would defeat the purpose of the dark pool, right? That the whole point is that you don't know. However, since we know the trades and we could kind of see what's going on, we could potentially make some inferences, or get some sense of, well, how active are the dark pools, right? What's going on in them? Are there big transactions happening? What are the price levels they're happening? And what is the stock doing afterwards? What kind of, support resistance is there, because you have liquidity on the lit exchange and you have liquidity in the dark pool, right? And we're trying to kind of assess both of those. So we could just take a look here. These are the last 17. And these are in, in Microsoft. We only isolated Microsoft here. And we could just kind of see uh, the sizes. So here's a big one, 191 million. That kind of sticks out. That traded for $427.99. Right. Then uh at 8:05:12. And what we kind of notice is, then it kind of floated down in dark pool, right? We see another one here, average price. So these are average price. This is something different. I'm not going to go too much into it, but that is something a little bit different. But if we just look at the pre-market, we could see here. Let me see if I could just sort it by. We could even sort it by the value. So here, we just sorted by value, 191 million for 48.5 million, 26.9 million. So a lot of them are happening here. I don't know exactly what this could be across. So those could be based on a cross for some reason, because they are indicated average price. These ones, those would be actual just pre-market matchups. Okay, so that's really quickly to try to filter out those specific trades to figure out what's going on in the block trades, in the dark pool. How many of these transactions are we seeing? What levels are we seeing them at? What is the stock doing after the transactions? What we could compare it to uh, the block trades on the lit exchange as well, right? I think let me just take a look here. If we wanted to look at stocks that are moving away from the up or down from the block trades, we could filter out those, or the trade price moving away from the previous day's close. We could also look for trade conditions. So here's the average price that we're talking about. These would be just regular trades. We're not in regular hours. Let me see if there are any crosses. Okay, so nothing here unusual. We could also look by exchange. If you wanted to isolate a specific exchange, we could do just dark pool. So these will only show us dark pool trades. Okay, in Microsoft. We could also look at, if there's anything happening on the New York Stock Exchange, or let's see, or ARCA. Let's do ARCA. So here's one in ARCA exchange and so forth. So this is a way for you to keep going. And here's New York Stock Exchange. So nothing on New York Stock Exchange. So it's a way to keep digging deeper and deeper into those pre-market trades, to get a better understanding of what is going on, where this volume is coming from, and how things are trading. So, Will, I think, that was kind of the questions that I was getting. So I was trying to focus on answering those questions.
Yeah, that was really helpful, D. And everyone, thank you for joining us today. If anyone ever has any questions or has an idea for a webinar, please email us support@MarketChameleon.com. Everyone have a great Turkey Day. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. And then Friday, are we going to try to have a webinar Friday morning? I know it's a half day of trading, I think, on Friday, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think it is. Yes.
So we'll try to have a webinar on Friday morning. With that, everyone enjoy the turkey. The football family is super important. So get out there and see your family. Great job.